I just had this really nice idea for the localization. Just quickly finished only the public interface and recording the implementation now. So yeah, I'm gonna just quickly show how it all started, right? So yeah, it's been like this for like a month probably, because I started the localization module a while back and wasn't really sure how I want to tackle that. Because localization is quite a big topic and it can get quite complex. Yeah, in preparation to, I mean, there's actually, it looks like not much, but quite some thought went into this, to be fair. So I watched some videos about Unreal Engine, Unity, how they do it. And I mean, the basic concept is quite simple, right? You want to have one method that you pass in a string, which is your key phrase, right? And you get back the localized string, so like a translation in the correct language. And you don't want to pass the language here, right? Like the language is some sort of global constant that you can just reference without passing it each time, right? Because it's, yeah. And yeah, I kind of thought about it and tried to do it the magique way, right? Which means it should have no dependencies, right? Which is kind of contrary to what's standing here. It should be no dependencies. It should have nice software interface, or like usable with pure software, right? So it should avoid any third-party tools. It shouldn't require like visual like editors, like graphical user interface, and it should just be like on the software side also nice made, right? Like syntactic sugar, if you want to call it that. And it should also be obviously functional, right? Like you can't. The syntax is nice as it, even if it's really good, it does make up for bad functionality, right? So in the end, it has to do its purpose. And I don't know. I looked around. I found this. I kind of liked it. It's kind of open source tool, but it's just, you have to download it and all that. Yeah, and it's just not really that. And there's some cool things, right? Because it uses like some open source format, like GNU. I don't know, something like GNU Translate. Yeah, they have like their format there. Yeah, I don't know why. I mean, to be unfair, it kind of goes against a lot of points I just listed. It's third party, it is open source, but this pro version, but it is very functional, right? Like it has a graphical user interface for translating, AI auto translation, all that kind of stuff. Yeah, but yeah, I didn't fully agree with it, which is why I didn't complete it in any way. So yeah, I don't know. I just kind of looked across it, and I mean the whole reason why I kind of went down the spiral because I wanted to avoid making a format, right? Because translation is something that, like most applications are like in web development. It's very common that you just split up the source code from like data, right? Like design code and something, and this is always important if there's a lot of input data, right? If you have a lot of input data, you don't want to write it in the source code because, multiple reasons, like designers can't use or like can't read the source code, or if you want to change the source code, yeah, or like if you want to change the data, you have to change the source code, or like if you change the data, you have to recompile, all that stuff. So, and you know, with localization, there's still a lot of data, so it's almost necessary to kind of split it up, which I just didn't want to in the beginning. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I just thought about it, and I don't know, kept writing stuff down, and I really liked where I where I'm at right now with this interface. So it's just it is a format, right? But I don't think there's a way around it. It's a very easy format, right? Just 10 lines to describe it. And it has a much nicer software interface. It overall feels a lot more magique, and it also has the option to be fully software-sided, right, without even a external file. Okay. Yeah, so I mean, the basic functionality is just dynamically choose language, and you get the correct string based on the keyword. So you have like a keyword or key phrase, which, you know, actually doesn't have to be related to the translated string in any way, right? So like the key phrase could be anything, and then it's just for you to recognize which string, or like what is translated. Yeah, and yeah, you can, as I said, manually or load from file. Yeah, and what's also nice is that you're not bound to any language codes or something, right? You can decide how you want to name the languages yourself and introduce some like made-up languages as well or something. And yeah, and here's the format, right? It's nothing crazy. I mean, I mean, all this is nothing crazy, right? It's just, I feel like it's just a nice little interface, and yeah. So yeah, let's get in implementing it actually, right? So again, I mean, you know, making an interface in magique is always the same, right? You first define it as public header, which is always located and includes magique, and game dev, because it's actually a feature in, you know, actual game development and nothing like abstract or like game engine wise. And then you just go into the source and into the same subfolder and add a localization, which is actually already there. And then we can implement it. So this is file to the left. Then use like the C-line feature to generate the stubs. This is also something that I like this method. I'm kind of excited for that. Right, because there's like, yeah, I mean, maybe quickly go over the methods. I mean, local is like the centerpiece of the module, right? You pass in either, I mean, this is just for convenience, right? The string and the const, just you pass it in and you get back the correct translation. So if you look at this method describes it pretty well. So you have a keyword, you pass in a keyword, the language, you set the language before, right? So you already have that, and the translation is then saved internally, right? So these two, they fall off. You only are left with the keyword that you have to know as information, and you get back a translated string, or like a localized string. Yeah, then we just have to load, so either by file or manually, and then here, this is something that's, yeah, I mean, this is essentially you have to set it, and the problem is there's also no default, right, with how I set it up. If I would like if I would say like, you know, country codes is how you identify languages, I could set the default to like, I don't know, US or English or something, right? But with how with the freedom you have with the languages, I can't do that, which is fine, you know. I'm just gonna make a few asserts, but yeah, and then you get the language, just a string, and then you validate. So, and the validate is just for example, here this is like an example file, right? Like German.mdf, the magique translation file. You specify the language, short like the language code, and then your keyword and the translation, right? And for example, if I would have a the same file, example is as US something, then like a missing our keyword, right? And then I could easily detect this, right? If I validate it, I parse each language file, and I save the keywords that exist, and then I check, okay, does every language file have every keyword that exists? And is a keyword empty, right? Which I'm still thinking about. Is it because I guess this is like a parsing issue, right? I don't know if I allow translations to be empty. I guess I do, right? Because, yeah, I mean, we can already get specific here, right? I already wrote down the note. Sort of the format then is pretty simple. We have language, semicolon, language code. In this case, everything between the first semicolon and the new line is considered code, right? And the same here. Everything, because the new line is obviously invisible here, right? But everything between the first semicolon, and a new line is then considered a translation, right? And if it's empty, then it's empty. Right, so yeah, so down here I'm also checking for empty translations, and yeah, okay. So there are a couple data elements, but in this case the data is locally to this translation unit, so I don't need to make a global header like I explained in some previous videos, which, you know, there exists quite a lot of this. If we go on to globals, like these are a lot of global headers, which is necessary because there's just data that needs to be accessed across translation units, and you need to somehow share it. So I did. So this is something I did kind of differently in different implementations. So I'm talking about how to structure the data here. I'm seeing two ways. You could just kind of specify it here, maybe like static, data. Which I've done specifically in the text formatting. Is it? And, it's actually in UI. Yeah. So yeah, in here the text formatting. I mean, that's correct. Yeah, I just kind of have these floating around values. Right. Yeah. And they are kind of static. But, yeah, but I guess it's just cleaner to use a struct, maybe. Yeah, I don't know. Well, it probably is. So yeah, I guess I just make extract and save the data. So I definitely need some hash maps. That's that's the first thing you should be thinking really when you see that. And I do have some very nice hash maps, some very fast ones, which is an internal include data structures, 10 hash types. Yeah, I'm just using this this extra header to kind of abstract the underlying type, right? Yeah. So yeah, so I can just switch it, right? So I can just define this like std unordered, for example, or like std unordered set, and this changes the implementation across the whole engine. I'm just thinking, because I'm using hashmap here, and I recently added the same ones down here, which is kind of bad, but I guess it's no collision because this is inside the namespace, but yeah. The thing is, this hash types is only engine internal, and these defines are meant for public use as well, right? Because I mean, a core concept of magique, which is, I guess, also one reason why there's the question, you know, what if really it would be an engine in the public README, is because it tries to minimize complexity towards the user, right? And yeah, having a double namespace and yeah, a lot of templates is more complex than having a name in Pascal case. You know, instead of the mostly weird C-style names. Yeah, I don't know. I like the historic naming scheme. Okay, so we need a hash map. Actually, I mean a specific string hash map header in this case that it's just it builds on top of the hash types, but includes some of my helper library, C structs, or like C extracts, but you know, you don't actually say the X. And includes string as well, right? Yeah, because I'm using a string. And this is just a transparent lookup enabled hash map, which just means if you have, you know, that's like static types, or like the type system, and if you have a hash map of, let's say in this case, right, let's see, it's a string hash. So yeah, so if you have a hash map of, let's say, std string and the end, yeah, perfect. Map. Then you need to pass a string as a key, right? Because you define std string as a key, but you can, you know, you can do transparent lookups, which then means that you can pass something else than a string as key, and it will be transformed into a string, right? So you need to define how to transform the type you want to pass as key into what is the actual key. And this sounds kind of weird, but you know, if you just want to pass a const instead of a string, you know, I mean, it's essentially the same thing. It's just about transforming it, and this is what transparent lookups do. Yeah, and specifically comparisons, right? If you pass a const juster, you can compare it with a string without allocations. But per default, the const justa is transformed into a string, which could cause an allocation, or like will cause an allocation if it's longer than like 13 characters, right? Which is like the small buffer optimization that the string does per default to avoid allocations for small strings. Yeah, and this custom hash map supports it, and you just have to pass a method to hash your custom lookup type, which is const justa, and to compare it, right? And this is then just so the string char hash. So it needs to be able to hash both a string, like a std string, and a justa, right? Because I want to use both as key. And yeah, and it also needs to do the equals, which are both methods that are used inside the hash map to do what it does. Then for the equals check, you need to do the same, right? So like all cases, the string is the string, and then left hand and right hand side each. And funnily enough, I did some benchmarks. I don't know why, but strcomp, like string compares way faster than the operator equals for the std string for some reason, right? May have to look at that, like into that at some point. Okay, so yeah, instead of this, we used string hash map. Actually, I wasn't on the other side the namespace. I was already using the new things I added. The new types added there. Okay, so yeah, and so I only need to provide a value type here because the string hash map, as the name says, has a string key. Yeah, the value in this case is just a string as well, right? Because I'm using a key, a string as a key, and I want to get back to translation, it's also a string. Yeah, so now I was just thinking, does it have to be a string or not, right? And the question is, do you want to save the string value inside the map or only the mapping, right? Because if you save const justa, it's obviously going to be faster, but you need this points to something, right? So you need the string needs to be allocated somewhere. So if you save it somewhere else, you can kind of use this, but it's more niche, right? Usually you want to save the actual string value inside the hash map. Or at least it seems so, because internally the string just has its own memory that points somewhere else, right? But yeah, so we need a couple of things. We first need a mapping between the keywords to a translation, but then also a mapping for the language to the table. So we actually need two structs. We need a struct language table, which then contains the string map, which we then can name keyword mapping. So this maps keywords to the translation, and right, so yeah, so this would then be a single file, a single translation file. It has the language, and it has the mapping between keywords to the translation. And then on the top level, I have a hash map that maps the language, which is like a string, right? But it's implied because of string hash map to a language table, which is then just a language mapping, I guess. Yeah, and I mean the final is not necessary, right? But I don't know, I like to use it. It's probably the compiler does it anyway, automatically. Or maybe it doesn't even have to, but I don't know, I just like just to be explicit. And without it, it looks a bit empty, right? It adds a little oomph. Okay. Yeah, we could think about reserving some space, but yeah, it doesn't really matter. Okay, so now we can already implement like the core methods. Well, actually, we first need an object of our data. I'm just thinking about how to call it, right? Because if I could just call it data, I can't use other stuff, right? For example, if one out of it is I have some global structure named engine data, which I usually then like access like this, right? But yeah, I guess this is fine then, because I'm not gonna use any other things. Like this interface is kind of self-contained. I think, yeah. I don't think I really needs any other includes here. Which is how it should be, right? Like these modules in game dev, they should be just kind of standalone ideas, yeah, that are just also easy to just copy, right? Like I'm not. I also want like it's not necessary to use magique just like as a whole project. You can also just copy individual parts, right? And things like this should make it easier because they can just replace the string hash map with like just an unordered map, and yeah, fully self-contained module. Okay, so we then do a lookup on our data. Yeah, so I'm just thinking about the case where a language does not exist. I actually already specified it here, right? I thought about if no language is set, it just returns the keyword itself, right? So I guess I go the old iterator route, because you need to be careful, right, when handling hash maps. If you just use the operator, what's it called? I mean, there's like this nice name for it. Damn. I need to like this. Yeah. Okay. The subscript operator. I mean, that's really like, you gotta love that name. You really gotta do. Yeah, but you can't if you obviously, right? If you use it, it adds a new mapping, so you can't really use it to check, to do a contains check, right? Which I can, but I actually don't want to, right? Because the fastest thing is to do this. Because this is a single lookup, and you get back the iterator, and you can check both if it contains the mapping, and if it does contain it, you can instantly use it, right? Compared to if I just use contains, I know that it contains it, but to get the actual value, I need to do another lookup, which I can avoid if I already find it. So then, yeah, the contains check is then this, right? If the iterator points to the end, it does not contain it. So in this case, if it is not the end, so it does contain it, contains keyword, we get back const auto. Yeah, and in this case, the iterator, I don't need to take it as a reference because it's pretty small, it's just a pointer, right? But now I get back, and now I need to take the reference dot second. Should work. What's wrong now? I mean, I guess I need to name it. Table. Okay, it works. Got ahead of myself there. So, yeah, then I have the table, and then I just do the same thing over again. Table it equals table dot find. Well, actually, I don't need language here, right? Because the language is the key in the first hash map. Yep. So it's already saved. Yeah, so I just do table dot. Yeah, in this case I can just collapse everything, which is funny. I can just table dot find keyword, and in this case it's actually language, so stat string language. Fast maps language to keywords. I mean, how do I like keyword? And, I mean, that's multi-line. Yeah. I mean, I guess this is fun. Okay, let's say here. Yeah. I guess I can inline it, but it doesn't matter. It's inside the file. So, yeah, what I said here is if there's no language set, right, and this is obviously false because it's the language map. So I need to do a lookup with data.language. And if data.language.empty, return keyword, right? And I can copy this from here. But in fact, I just copy the whole function pretty much. I guess it's actually the other way around, right? Yeah. Yeah. Because otherwise I'm creating a new string. Yeah, I do need to make Yeah, I guess I'm copying it anyway. But yeah, I mean, this is actually something I wanted to avoid. I guess I need to make a third method, right? Because I actually want to return a string reference, but take a const, right? So I define because I am the transparent lookup enabled, as I explained earlier. Right. So return localize implementation like this. In this case, keyword.cstring, and then return it directly. Yep, like this I avoid copies in both cases. And in both cases I return the direct memory, right? Like here and here. And here, the second one, obviously the string itself. Yep. Yeah, and yeah, this is only possible. Yeah, I'm copying it actually. What's problem? Yeah, I guess I'll make this case just special then. Alright. Alright. Yeah, that works. Use after free. When the parameter is constructed from a temporary. Right. Right. So if I pass a temporary and then return it. That's annoying. I don't know, shall I leave it in like that? I'm gonna leave it in for now and then worry about it later. It's not. I don't think it's anything crucial about the implementation here. Okay, so yeah, in this case, I already handled the case, so it's empty. Translation's not found. Okay, this is annoying. Because now I have to check if. Right, and else. I guess I don't provide a string method then, like I don't want to bother with this. Then I can just like leave this as well. Yeah, I don't know, that's just the best of both. Yeah, then I need to do this again. Jesus. Return keyword. So then, yeah, language find. The language cannot be found. set languages set contains no translations or keyword set language just exists or the keyword is not translated to the keywords. Okay, like this. So yeah, in this case, if it's not empty, the language exists, but else we return the keyword. Then if the language exists, we look for the keyword inside the language. If it exists, or if it not exists, we return the keyword. And then this is the only positive case if the language is set. If the language is exists, and if inside the language the keyword has translation, then we return the and actually we already did the lookups. I return table it second, right? Which is actually a string. So we return the C string. Right, then we get a few optimizations. Right, because in here we already have return, so if we hit this case, we already exit the method, we don't need an else statement, and it's just cleaner. Right, so then the parsing of the file, yeah, I already explained it earlier, it's quite easy, quite simple. So the asset, to quickly recap, is just the path, the size, and the data. You only have to worry about the latter two. We do have to check the extension though. So we assert to include the macro header. We assert that asset got get extension. We include the asset header, so we have the asset file. Is there something I can pass with the extension? No. Okay. Actually, I need to do a stir comp. It's class 0. Past asset is not a file. Asset needs to be file C. Oh man, come on. Yeah, I guess I'll just leave it. Okay, then we get a work point. Just adjust set that. In this case, we need to do the forbidden thing. Well, actually, do we? I guess we can leave it at cons, actually. So, yeah. But can I increase the work? Yeah, I can. Okay. Okay, while work point is not null, I parse it. So in the end, do I wanna look some info as a question? So historically, I logged info for loading when loading bigger things like tile maps and tile sets. Things where you don't really have many, which I guess is true for localization files as well, right? It's just gonna be like 10, 15 languages at most, really. And getting a single line info is, I guess, is fine for that. So I want to do definitely a keyword. How many translations, probably. Yeah, and then log info. Okay, include the logging header. Oops. Just wanted to check if I have any global. No, I don't have any globals yet. So assertion from earlier holds that we don't use anything else. Yeah, so I wanna do Jesus. Man, this word is special, you know. So many like double characters. It's crazy. Let's reload it. Translation. How did I exactly do that in the tile map? Yeah. Just so successfully loaded. Localization language. Maybe I want to combine that. Successfully loaded. Oh yeah, I guess I can't. Keywords. And that's it, I guess. So language, the language is not specified yet. So I guess it's that's I don't know, I don't wanna have an extra allocation to be honest. I guess I can make it a constant. I can assign it later, right? Language and then translations. Right, so I have this done as well. Yeah. This is assigned later. So now let's actually get to parsing. So I do need to parse. Then I can use skip. Skip char. Do I have already? Oh yeah, I have access to this because of the string, because it includes my cstructs cx string utility header. Yeah, and there's a bunch of, I already showed off these two, but there's a bunch of string functions. Yeah. Why are they actually in here? What exactly this skip? Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean that's just a very simple method. It skips along a pointer of strings until it encounters the given character the given amount of times. So I want to advance the work pointer as long as I don't see a single semicolon, right? And hit here kinda need a non-const, right? But I guess I don't need this. I can make it simpler. And I actually need an index, right? So while work point index I is if equals guess I actually wanna text you know, and just kind of make it modular, right? Like this is just best practices. I don't understand what it's telling me. I guess now. Yeah. I don't know. To be fair, I kind of like the. Kind of don't like the struct. If I'm completely honest. I mean, okay, plus plus I at the end. So if we have a separator for the first time, you can actually just hardcode this because there's only gonna be one language. First language, reduce the line count, right? Bring the comment to the same line as the if. Yeah, we can. We have a language. Maybe we want the length. Because now we can deduct. Right. Actually, I'm not advancing. I mean, the length is just I, right? If I equals 0, well, I mean, it's not possible. Then, I mean, it's hard-coded, right? So I'm starting to pass here, and I'm going to pass here, because this needs to be language. Yeah. And then I guess I can make a variable like equals I, make this const, and then while so, new line plus I. Right, then I don't actually. What am I doing here? Jesus. So the language. So first I'm parsing. Yeah, sure. I can make it separate. Okay. So first I'm parsing until I hit a separator, which I can later add check that your language is actually here, right? Because right now you could just make it like this, right? Which is fine as well. Then I have the language start. Work point plus I guess. And yeah, if it is a separator, then we start parsing the language again, and then it's either one and it's not a new line, it's null if constant length equal I language start, right? And then if length equals 0, we return with an error. File as no. Something like this. So yeah, here I can specify I want the asset file name with the extension, and the language somehow. I don't want, because I can't cache it yet, right? Yeah, I'm gonna leave it like that. And now I can finally save. Right, I do have to handle a case now where you specify multiple like files, right? Multiple with the same language. What do I do then? I guess I refuse. Man, okay, fuck this. I'm just gonna make a string cache now. Like, this is getting ridiculous. I can afford at least one cache string per language file. Like, yeah. Nice. So now I can make a lot of things easier, right? I can then say here, I can assign it equals dot assign. Yeah, perfect. So I can assign it here, then I can turn it in here. Yeah, I'm just kind of want to make this to a single line, right? Right, and then it's the cast string now contains language, and now I need to do a lookup if data dot language mapping contains. Here I can do contains because it's only called once. Contains cast string, then return, and we return with the arrow. Yeah, it's gonna be a long arrow again. Localization for language. For language. Alright. Exists from file. Okay, so it's the other way around. Okay, yeah, I need one. Okay, so if both is false, I can then language mapping cast string. Yeah, I can start parsing. So table. Right, so now I created the word table. Right. Okay, that's I think that's it for now. I'm gonna continue then tomorrow with the implementation of this. I mean, it's pretty straightforward, right? It's just nothing crazy. Yeah, the focus is just on being solid, right? Having good error handling, thinking about like the edge cases here. What do you have multiple files? Because I just thought about it, right? And why I decided to throw an arrow here is because what if one, like here, one language file contains 2 keywords and the second one only contains 1, right? What do you do? Like the options are either just replace, right? Replace the first one with the second one, so basically delete one of the first keywords, or you kind of make it pretty complex and check, is the new keyword, does it already exist? Like, would it be a deletion or would it be a extension? But for this, you would need to parse the new one completely and then compare them, which makes it more complex. On the implementation side, right, for the user, it's the same, just a simple call. But then again, I think in the end, what's most prevalent is that what makes more sense, right? It makes no sense to have like two German like translation files, right? You want to group everything into one file. So yeah, so that's kind of the intended usage, which then lines up with rejecting multiple files. So that should be the most logical solution. Yeah, so here it's then just parsing the thing, adding it all up. Here, this is pretty straightforward. We can already implement this pretty fast. This is all straightforward, and then just to validate, it's gonna be fun as well. Do this. So, reviewed, and what do custom file format supplement here. With only colors. Oh yeah, and I also did some work on CMake. Proved scripts. Added more creation printouts. Normalized. Standardized. Okay. Okay then. Thanks for watching. See you in the next one.